on.
Ready, just give us a thumbs up and we'll start.
Okay.
Good.
Okay. 6:10 starting time. Okay. Thank you for coming to the Fraser Park Public Utility District Water Meeting on November 21st, 2019 at 6:10. Let's stand and do the pledge.
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Director Nyman.
Here.
Director Garcia.
Here.
Director Gibson.
Here.
Director Schoenberg is out, and Director Kelling is here. Do we need to adjust the agenda, Andy?
They said no.
Dave's probably here.
Okay. Do we have any comments from public? No? Oh, okay. Manager's report.
Yeah, really, the only main thing is the customer Dave Gilman that came in and talked about his road and the leak. I set up a street sweeper, a portable street sweeper that we drive for Monday. So he's happy about that, to clean the street after a leak that we'd had. Washed down the mountain, left dirt on the road. Couldn't get a regular street sweeper in there, too skinny of a road. And so I talked to him. He seemed to be, really content with the discussion, so that worked out good.
Good PR.
Yeah, and then there's some stuff that JPIA, I told you that our inspection went really well. He did make some suggestions when I got the report, like replacing the front door for security's sake, because the door's so flimsy and the glass is so flimsy, and changing out the locks to where they're not they don't have a thumb turn on the inside, so you have to use a key on both sides. Upgrading the alarms, the internet with cameras that go to the alarm company, just to cut losses on burglaries and stuff, because if somebody comes in here, they could grab computers or whatever and they just run right out the door. Right. If they have to go through a window to get back out again, and when the alarm's going, there's a lot less that they could take during that time.
But is that legal for fire?
Yeah.
To have a key?
Yeah, as long as it remains unlocked during business hours.
Okay.
So when nobody's here. Plus the bottom locks can all be locked, and not the deadbolts until we close up for the night. So
okay.
he just made those suggestions, so I'll be starting to work on all the suggestions that he gave me for that stuff. So that's all I got.
Administrative assistant report.
Not too much. I was at my class a couple of weeks ago. There's really good information. A lot of there's information on stuff that's happened during the last year that would impact districts. So there were some good things on that, court cases that changed the way the courts decide on and look at Brown Act stuff. So just I'll give you one key piece of information. So I guess there was a court case last year where a member of the public gave a comment during the period, and he was limited to 3 minutes, like districts are allowed to do. And he said that no, they didn't give me enough time. I wasn't given my information. So when the districts had to prove to the courts that he was allowed, the courts ruled that during public comment period to let people have uninterrupted time. So when you start your 5-minute timer here, don't respond to them in that 5 minutes, because that's how a district can prove that the public was allowed that time to give their comments. I know a lot of times we, let me answer your question one at a time, just because it just helps that way. But they actually suggest against it now because of this new court ruling.
So it's better to make notes and then wait until they're done and then respond.
That way you have an uninterrupted time period where you can prove that they got the chance. So just things like that come down the pipes were interesting, and
that makes sense.
That's it for now.
Thank you.
Okay. Financial business, Linda.
Okay. First first thing is the auditor report. Our meeting was postponed by their office due to a death of an employee, long-term employee. So that the meeting has been postponed to December 4th. Also, the bills we received for this time, there's only 8 of them. One of them was for the repair of the tractor, which Johnny already mentioned. The others are normal type things. The only other one that's different is $25 for reimbursement to Tiffany for her meals, which is really good.
Yeah.
For 3 days, that's excellent. So the total disbursements are $11,377.37.
Okay, well, I make a motion that we pay our bills.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? 401. Motion carried. Unfinished business. Discussion and vote on the HFP LOW consolidation planning project.
Can I make a
Update
suggestion?
on conference held November 21st,
If I
2019.
can make a suggestion while we're waiting for Dave to get here, maybe we.
Dave is here.
Oh, where'd he
He
go?
looks a lot
Oh, you walked in.
He's not in on you.
That looks like
Hello.
Dan.
I got new shoes I snuck.
What'd you do with
Snuck
Dave?
right in.
Oh,
Perfect, so never mind. I was just gonna suggest we did the minutes next, is all, but he's here already, so.
Yes. So do I get, who
Well,
wants to comment on the
Well,
conference call
we had a conference call with,
yesterday?
no, it was today,
Oh, okay, today.
with Lawrence Sanchez and Dee and Dave and Johnny and I were on the phone along with, what's his name? Oh, Ryan Eichenhauer. And basically, we talked about SIA, that we're working to get permission to do the geophysical study, and that Lawrence said that he would, we were sending him our letters that we had sent to him, and that he would try to contact them. The minutes are here, you can read the minutes on there. Also, the second site is Emily Wainwright site, which is a good, probably a good viable site, and we have permission from her to go on her site, do the geophysical study, and then if it's good, then we'll get for test drilling. And if I leave anything out, Dee, please interject.
Can I add something to that real quick?
Sure.
When we approved the condemnation, legal aspect of it, we thought we might have to pony up the $3,000 to $5,000 that, Alan Dowd thought. But now, Lawrence says that he thinks that that's gonna be a, covered expense for legal because we need it, so that'll be folded into the legal fees.
Well, I don't know
for the
about
project.
this first one.
That's what he said when we asked,
Well, he,
right? Gee?
You know, one of the things that I was looking at the budget today and got some of those numbers that we were talking about a little bit earlier in that telephone call. And we did put some numbers in for legal. And there's some from self-help, there's also from state financing as well. So, it looks like we may have it pretty well covered, depending on how difficult it gets, but hopefully it'll be smooth. So I think, there's a good chance we can recover that cost. And the other thing that I just wanted to, Emily has indicated that she would give us permission, but we don't have it in writing yet.
right.
So we're putting together a brief letter, and that's with the attorney right now to take a look at, just a simple, simplified letter that basically gives us permission to,
Enter the property.
yeah. And and that's same with the other property, the Picknet property, which is the third one that we're looking at. And both look very promising, at least at this point in time. So it looks like we'll have 3 sites, and I think, as far as we can tell from what we know right now, they're probably the best sites that we can get in the canyon, and especially the SEA site.
And then the third site, which is across the street from the park, we also, Dee has talked to the owner or the property manager, and they seem to be familiar with the process, and so he thinks it'll be no problem for us if we need to go and do that third site. So, and lastly, we asked the permission, and I guess Dave, you're going to send an email to Lawrence about moving some of that money.
It's up, I have that for, I guess, discussion on there, if the board wants to do that.
Yeah, okay, we'll, I guess we'll get to that discussion, but basically Lawrence said that, because we have the staff budget in there, that we're able to transfer some of those funds to pay for our, meetings. Since we've already exhausted $7,100 of the $9,000 that was allocated. And so we will be out of reimbursed funds in December, so we would need to transfer some of that money. He didn't want us taking anything from the contingency. That would be something he wants left towards the end of the planning project before we would approach them to take any kind of money from the contingency. So, and that's about it. And we'll be discussing a little more with the contract stuff. I think we briefly touched on Dee's contract and what we need to do with that, so.
It should be noted too that they seem to be very easy to deal with right now. They seem very pro project, in my opinion. Lawrence and all them guys, they seem very pro getting us the funding and moving along, and they don't, they seem to want it to happen just like we do, so.
Okay. B, the test well location and acquisition update, I guess you've already done that. Okay, discussion and vote on contract with D. Jasper.
Okay. I think this is where Lawrence was saying, Dee, and I don't know if we have any other information, or do you have some information, Dave, on that?
I have some information on that.
Because, I mean, you have the schedule as an attachment B, but okay, I'll let you pass that
Oh,
out.
here's, I spent some time this afternoon breaking this down
Okay.
the best I could. And I think it's within, Terry.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You folks.
I blame
What was discussed today on the phone call with Lawrence was, Lawrence wanted to get an idea of the breakdown. We've got, $1.015 million grant loan for this phase of the project. And, we're talking about the engineering contract, and so how much of that is the engineering contract. And so I've prepared, I think I've got spreadsheets going back to, I think 2013 when we first started putting this together. And I've got 2013, 2014, 2015, and a more recent one. But the state, when they broke down these categories that you see on the contract, didn't quite fit what any of those spreadsheets were. They're close, but they weren't exactly those numbers. They were a little bit less. In fact, I think about $50,000 less than what we had put on our spreadsheet back in 2015. And so I spent some time this afternoon breaking down the state's categories into engineering work and other work. And what you have before you is a cost components breakdown for that $1.0148 million. And just to go down through that, in the contract and in the funding agreement, the FA, this chart, which is at the back of our contract, is in that funding agreement. That's kind of what everything is based on, funding agreement. And so I took that chart and I broke it down into these very same categories that were in the funding agreement and in the back of our contract. And the first item there is project management, administration, and legal. The amount in that tabulation with in the FA funding agreement is $35,800. And I put the entity there would be the district, and that would include legal fees, administrative fees, project management, and some other things, expenses that the district would have. I don't know of, this is my understanding of what that breakdown is. Lawrence would have to maybe detail it more, but this is basically funds for the district as I see it, for administration.
Right, and that administration and administration is for meetings and also staff.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have it broken down in the claim form. Why those three categories are broken down, and I'll review that
Right.
later.
Item number 2 was the test wells, which is, a pretty big part of what that grant is. And so I broke that down into subcategories and divided it into, where the funding is going. Plans and specs for the test wells, 25026. Drilling 3 wells at $120,000 a well is what we forecast that cost will be. And that's to the contractor, and that's in the other category. Labor compliance, when we do these projects, we hire, usually through DJA, a labor compliance contractor, and he makes sure that the driller or whoever it is that's working, the contractor, pays prevailing wages. And so every month,
He does a report.
generates a report, right, to make sure that we are in compliance with state regulations. And normally that's done through our firm. We normally hire somebody to do that. And so I put it under engineering. Property licenses, my category there, and what I had put in the budget, not knowing exactly where this is gonna land, for 3 sites for $30,000. And what that, and I'm thinking it's probably gonna be more like 15, probably 5,000 a site. But I budgeted twice that amount, because I just wanted to make sure. But what that is it's the second step, and it's the license to drill the test well. And what we do is we put together an agreement. First of all, there are 3 steps. First is the geophysical survey, which is what we're trying to get done right now. And then second is that if it proves out, looks pretty good, then we drill a test well. And so we enter into an agreement with a property owner that says, hey, we'll pay you $5,000 for the right to come onto your property and drill a test well. And before we even do that, as part of the license agreement, we have an appraisal of the property done by an appraiser that both the district and the landowner agree to develop the value of that site when we purchase it, if we purchase it, so that we know going in before we drill the test well
What the cost would be.
what it's gonna cost to actually buy it, purchase it, or take a permanent easement on it, if indeed the test well proves out. So that is all determined before we even hit the ground with the test well rig to drill a hole. And so that agreement is put together, the price is agreed, and it basically says, if this site proves out, then we will pay you so much for this
X
site.
amount
And-
within 5 years. or
5
whatever.
years, yeah, it was normally the time on that. So, that agreement gets put in place, and, so then this is the cost of a license. That would be
That's the
one.
property licenses.
Property license, that would be a payment that goes to the landowner. And again, I think it'll probably be around $5,000 per landowner. Fish and wildlife fees, there's some small fees that we have to pay. We're in the creek area, and so we have to pay some fish and wildlife fees. They're pretty minimal, $2,000. Our hydrogeologist is a subcontractor that works for us. That would be Ken Schmidt. And he would put a man on there are a couple of ways we do it. Normally, he will put a hydrogeologist on the well site when we drill each one of these wells. And so one of his people would be observing the cuttings that come out and taking the water quality samples as this test well gets advanced downward till we hit bedrock. And so that's the budget that I put in for Ken Schmidt. Or sometimes we'll bring a staff member up depending on scheduling, and our staff does a lot of wells, so we work back and forth with Ken depending on what the schedules are, his schedules and our schedules. So, but that's the amount for 3 wells. Water quality testing, that's an estimate again, usually paid through the engineering contract, simply because we send those samples off and we get them tested, and then we get the bill and we send it to you guys, and you guys pay us and we pay them. Hydrogeology report, when this thing gets done, and if we have to drill 3 wells, we're hoping just for 2, but if we have to drill 3, then the hydrogeologist writes a separate report, and that's a very detailed hydrogeologic report.
For each site.
That for each site. And so he'll write that report and give his opinion as to what the water quality would be and what he thinks the yield would be for each one of the wells. And then with that information, then we take that information, fold it into a draft project engineering report, PER. And that includes draft well sites, we decide how we're gonna route the piping, we decide what the pump sizes are gonna be, where we're gonna put the booster pumping plants, what sizes of the booster pumping plants are gonna be, what the tank sizes are gonna be, all as a preliminary or a draft report that goes to water boards and basically to Jesse and Ryan. And they review it, and this report actually covers 3 alternative solutions, and the 4th is not to do anything. So we actually come up with 3 different alternatives to solve the problem. And we price them out, and we do a complete report for that. So we do the draft, and then we turn it in, and Jesse reviews it, and normally there's some comments on it, and so then I've got about a $6,000 budget amount to go ahead and finalize it. Sometimes we have to do a little bit more work depending on what they want to do. So that subcategory test item 2 test wells, 527,842, and that's should be the amount that's on the FA. Then once that's all done, we have 4 alternatives, and 1 is selected. And then that 1 is selected, we write a complete report for that 1. And so that's what that project design report is. That one considers all the details of that 1 alternative. So then we take that even to greater detail and write a report. That goes to the board, and by the way, these reports go to the board and they go to water boards as well. Everybody gets a chance to comment on it. And this project design report then is the details that we're gonna design. That's what we're gonna put
And
on
that
paper.
is, and now that design report, that's the wells and the pipeline, everything?
Booster pumping plants, all,
Everything.
Everything,
everything.
okay.
So that's the project.
And that's kinda like an overview,
It is a very detailed report for the alternative that's selected.
okay.
So it goes into greater detail, more, it isn't it's just about pretty much the design, the size of the pumps,
Right,
how many pumps,
okay.
size of the wells. We get pretty much all that put together, but it's in a report format, not a design. And then, once everybody is good with that, then we start the plans and specifications, which is down in item 5. And that then is the specifications that get issued to, for bid. It has all the, general conditions, technical conditions, special conditions. It'll be a book probably about that thick, that then is approved by this board and by water boards. And once.
And then by the state,
Well, that is water boards, yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
the water board.
Yeah,
State
yeah,
water board.
State water board, okay.
And then once that's approved, then we go to bid. And then we hopefully get some bids that fall within the range of what we can afford. And then that starts the construction part of that project. So that's what this is all about. The engineering amount on this is $438,613. The other amount is $576,279, and combined, they are the $1,014,892.
Right,
That's on
Okay.
FA. And when I say FA, I mean funding agreement.
yes.
So that's the breakdown of the cost components, and I think that's what,
Yeah,
Lawrence wanted.
so I think what we'd like to be is maybe you can put this in with the report as like maybe an attachment C,
it'll be on the contract.
be on the contract like as an attachment C.
I think it was, or in places attachment.
Hey, Johnny?
Actually, I'm gonna add it as another attachment, because D is really that's the big project budget, and this is the breakdown of it. So we'll have both, not, it's for information only, not.
So we're keeping B and we're adding C, right?
Right.
Right,
that's
and
correct.
so, because that way it breaks out his engineering costs so that there isn't any confusion as to, because you looked in these categories, it wasn't broken out.
It
so-
ties back in.
Right, so it ties back in so that you don't come back and say, oh, we spent an extra $100,000 and the state says, well, Fraser Park, it's your bill.
And you guys would say, hey, D.
We say, hey, no problem, D, we'll write a check, yeah.
The check is in the mail last week.
We've done that, and like I said on the telephone call, some of those, if there is an overrun, like Lawrence said, the construction site can pick up some of that later, and so what happens is we just don't get paid.
That's something we would negotiate and talk to the state about and figure out that towards the end.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, well,
Well, you have the contract, and this is just gonna amend, the contract's gonna be amended subject to these changes.
Yes, and Dave, as you know, took this thing apart and put it back together,
right,
and I think incorporated all your comments, Dave, I hope we have.
Yeah, that was the only thing was the detail that Lawrence wanted. And I think you probably just have to readjust some of the reference on the A and B and the C and all that
So
stuff.
you're saying we could sign it tonight?
well, we can't sign it tonight because he has to do an
Because it's not a
attachment
final.
C and he also has to send it to Lawrence.
Right.
And get approved.
So, so I don't think we can approve it until the next meeting.
We're moving ahead anyway. I mean, from the standpoint of the selection of the, not on the design, but
Let me ask you a question. We have to have this signed in order to put in that application, correct, Dave?
Well, you need a contract as part of the application, but you also need, when you start submitting charges that Dee would charge for certain work, then you'll need to have an agreement as a reference point of what he's charging for and.
I'm sorry, I just shifted into another, project. Sorry.
I did it too. I
We're still in LOW, okay?
Yes, we're in Lake of the Woods planning, okay.
think if you get this approved by this next meeting.
Right, so,
Or your first meeting of the month or something like that.
right, so,
It would be fine.
okay, so I won't even make a motion. We'll just have you update that as an attachment C and send it to Lawrence, and then when Lawrence, and as long as Lawrence okays it, we'll have it on the agenda for
December 12th.
for our December 12th meeting, and we'll approve it then. And if there's any changes, we just need to have it prior to that, so me and Lisa can review it if we need to review something else on that.
And I appreciate these and his staff diligent in going through it.
Yes, no, I'm very happy with this. It makes it a lot clearer. I mean, when I look at the funding agreement, that spreadsheet to me is super confusing. And so this gives me a lot more clarity, and I like that.
Well, and the state requires you folks to, when you contract with somebody, that they have all this if, I, wherefores, and on all these requirements in the contract.
Right,
So,
yeah. Well, and I looked at the first part of the contract, and that's pretty much all boilerplate language that
Yeah.
we have in every contract, so.
Is,
Okay, great. Good work, Dee.
thank you.
Okay, discussion and vote on claim 2. I guess Dave, that's you?
yeah, and I don't have a claim 2 ready for you folks tonight. I'm recommending that it be submitted with, for a 3-month claim.
Because there wasn't enough.
It's
It's just our meetings, and so we don't have anything else to add to it, so. And Lawrence also mentioned that on our call, that we could do it he wanted it quarterly, which he said, what was October 1st, January 1st, he wanted quarterly reports, October 1st, January 1st, April 1st, and July 1st, I believe.
yeah.
So basically, we can hold off on this because there wasn't enough to submit a claim.
But I do have some stuff just to go over with you folks on the reference to the budget, that $35,000 or $38,000. And,
What budget? On the one that Dee just talked about?
no, it's part of that. It's the top,
It's the top part of the funding agreement are you talking about for the meetings, Dave?
it's part of your planning budget.
Yeah.
It's the very top part.
I'll let you pass out what you're doing, and then I can,
Pick it apart.
no, we're not gonna pick anything apart. I never pick anything apart.
Oh, that's the other director.
That's Lisa's part, right?
That's Lisa's
That's the
job.
yin and yang, right?
I cheated. I'm using the pay request number 1 as a reference point, but it serves its purpose. You would go, and I'll just go to you folks page by page. The first 2 pages are going to be really quick.
Okay.
You got that? You get that? You got it. Sorry. In if you go to the second, this is just a claim. We submitted a claim 1 for $7,100. This is what the claim is. This is a copy of that claim, the first 3 pages. Go to the second page. That $7,100 came out of that $35,800, which Dee has, detailed in the breakdown, and that's on the second page, circled in red. You used up $7,100 of that, but then that budget gets broken down on the third page.
Right.
At the top left-hand corner, $9,000 for board fees, planning and administration, $6,000 for legal, staff recovery costs, $20,800. And like Dee pointed out, we've been hashing out this whole budget with the state for 2.5 years, and they've upped and increased and decreased the numbers, and we're all trying to figure out how they got to some of these numbers. It's good to have the board fees, and they're good to have staff costs and the legal for the part of the planning. Just the problem is that we only have about $1,900 left in board fees, and that.
So, okay, yeah,
So I was going to suggest, and what's his name, Lawrence suggested, and I would assume it's be, he would just say if you folks recommend, I would recommend that you look at maybe staff costs. There's not a big charge of it, and you could dip into that and make adjustments.
So this is my thinking. I mean, on average, we're talking about $500 a month. So 2 years is gonna be 12 grand. But if we met every month for 2 years, it would be $12,000. Then, on average, we're doing probably $200 every 3 months. That's 2, 4, 6, that's 8, another 1,600. So I'm thinking if we move like 14 or 15,000 from the staff cost to the board fees, that should cover us during this project.
What's gonna cover you for the last 6 years of the project?
No, this is just the planning.
Takes a long time.
Okay. Dave, I don't know if you know this, in the pre-planning, what was the staff recovery cost?
There wasn't.
Any, so we have the ability to charge for the meetings, the cost for Cassandra and Tiffany and some of her staff work for this, so we have to keep some documentation of that.
Right, and Tiffany had provided some staff costs starting in September, and then in October, like a tally of hours. And that's what the state wants to see is date of service, the charge, number of hours, staff, and basically what they did, a brief explanation. And she has provided that. And that's good documentation to submit with the claim to the state, instead of just, we pay Tiffany, $150, they wanna see the specifics on the date and the charge rate that was applied. That's what Dee uses. That's what we used to use for charging our time to the pre-planning funds. And that's something that it would be for the state. And then you would pull that money out this next claim period, for staffing costs and stuff.
So it would come out of that staff.
What did you recommend, 15,000?
Well, yeah, because we have 20,800.
Yeah, I see that.
And so, our
And then
staff costs are.
12,000 for the year,
Right, so.
and then the
I'm
additional.
12,000 for like 2 years.
Mhm.
And then the additional one meetings, because we're meeting every month. And sometimes we come in a little early, so we're averaging, because we only pay like on 3 hours. And, so that's what we would be charging the state, like we
Oh,
met
right.
on this date, and this date. And so me and Lisa would charge
Oh,
back
oh, sure.
those $100 back to that, so.
Right.
So I'm figuring 15,000,
And that leaves like $5,800 for staff costs. And your
Right.
charges were around 120, 130, but you might add to that also. Right?
Yeah, and I included the board ad hoc for the monthly meetings in the staff costs. Should that be
that
should
put
be moved
back
to the-
into the board?
Yeah,
yeah, that would
So
be,
not included,
right.
yes,
so I need to pull that back.
I
into it.
apologize.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, so we should put that in the board meeting
right.
cost, yeah.
And so you had considered that ad hoc work.
That's what I was just
Okay,
saying,
in
because,
addition to the
because
board
you're
meetings.
figuring we're charging probably 4 times a year, every 3 months at least, because we do like 3 hours of work, we get paid for an ad hoc. So, and that's $200 every 3 months, so that's $800 a year. plus, so 2 years is 1,600. So 12 grand, 1,600. So if we do 15,000, that should leave us, we should.
Little
Little.
in there.
That's
And
about-
that's starting in January, basically, because this 1,900 is gonna cover us, this 1,900 is gonna cover us.
To the end of the year.
Through the end of the year.
One more month.
Yeah.
Right, but I mean, we have it covered from probably what, October, right? We need October.
Start September.
It's a little, it's give or take, it's around 15, but it's a little, maybe 1,600.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
more For the time spent
Right.
on stuff.
Right, so,
Yeah,
Perfect.
so yeah, so that's what I propose, that we move that 15,000 into the board fees.
which would leave around an average, of, if you just divide it by 24 months, about $240 some odd dollars available for charging staff time too. Do you
Right.
think that's adequate?
So who does that move?
Oh, well, he's gonna send an email to Lauren Sanchez, and then Lauren Sanchez
can't
will,
do it.
will reply and say it's
Okay.
okay.
Well, can I draft an email, send it to Johnny, Tiffany, you guys, and you guys as a board forward that request from you folks?
Yeah, that's fine.
Easy.
Perfectly fine.
Because it should come from you folks, it's your contract with them, not ours.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But I mean, I was just going from our meeting today, because he said for you to just send him an email, so, yeah, that's fine.
And we didn't note the time when we started discussing with business tonight.
No, I'll get it off the stream.
Oh, cool.
So, was there board action on that, or?
I don't think there was.
Well, we don't have to, we're just directing you to do that. We don't have to, I don't think that's not a motion.
It might be a motion.
It might be a motion?
Do a
Yeah,
motion
because
and
they
then
read
we're
the
covered,
minutes,
right?
right? The state gets the
Yeah.
minutes, so they're gonna wanna
Okay.
see that.
Okay, I make a motion that we move $15,000 from the staff cost recovery in the budget to the board fees. And Dave will submit us the email, and then we will forward it on to the state with our approval.
You guys will submit an email to the state.
Yeah,
requesting
and
that change.
we'll submit an email to the state, to Lauren Sanchez.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, 401. Okay, that's claim 2, or claim whatever. Okay. Discussion, okay, now we're moving on to a discussion and vote on well 5, the emergency replacement project, okay. The USDA well grant loan application,
Okay, this is where we're at, okay.
yeah. No, LOW is gone. I know, confusing.
Okay, so that's number
7.
7.
Hey,
So basically, what we need, Dave, to submit the application is we need the approved PER, we need the Tulare contract, and what else do we need?
There's application documents, but I recall, and Dee, was there any update on, did you wanna speak what you had talked to me about on, when you talked to Robert? And early on, you folks had applied for emergency grant, and then they told us, no, we're not gonna do it. And did you wanna?
Yeah, I can,
go for anything?
I have a little bit more information. I talked to Robert Nielsen at USDA. There were a couple things from the standpoint of contracting I wanted to just chat with him about. And he mentioned that, he said, well, gee whiz, why don't you guys, this is an emergency well replacement, why don't this go under the ECWAG fund? And so we talked about that a little bit, and then I got an email the next morning, and Robert said, I forgot that Al and I talked about that. Al is the staff person over at Santa Maria, who we had talked to before. We had talked to Al,
Coriel?
Yeah,
And Al Coryell, yeah.
yeah, Coriel, back in March. And Al said, no way, is this an emergency? This is an old well. You guys should have planned for it. You know, it's 50 years old, so that's not an emergency. We can't put that in the ECWAG funding. And so that's what led us down the path that we're on right now. Well, Robert had forgotten that, and he and Al had talked at the time, and we had forgotten that. Of course, I had called him kind of as a cold call. He didn't know that I was going to call him about that. And so the next day, he sent me an email and said, wait, I remember now, we had this conversation, and it does not qualify for ECWAG, so stay on the path that you're on. And so that's what we're doing, so, and that was just, I think, yesterday morning, when I got that, or it might have been this morning.
You called me like at 8 o'clock at night, you had just come from covering the hay up in Ashland, and you were going back to work.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
No, it rained that night, yeah. So, yeah, I went back and anyway, the next morning, which was this morning, I got that communication, so, anyway, we're on the path, so.
That's unfortunate too. I was hoping that they had a change of heart, because like, you know, now it's, I just realized well 5 now is producing even less than it was before. We're down to just under 200 gallons a minute now. Well, so it's hoping for the ECWAG to come through so we can get it done faster, but.
He said that they would move it along, fairly quickly.
Good.
And in an email they sent last, after they decided it wasn't emergency grant, they said, here's some engineer support, and I was using an earlier engineer support and commenting on it, but Curtis had sent in, hey, here's the updated engineer support that we're building we're constructing the engineer support on, here's the guidelines. And so I know that engineer support, it's not final until they look at it and say, yes, we approve it. So I would consider a draft that's been reviewed by you folks, but it's gonna go to them, and Robert will certainly, might want things changed to get their visualization of how they see the infrastructure to be. But I know a lot of comments have been made on it, and it's been back and forth. I didn't get to read in detail the latest one that.
So, we can go through the preliminary engineering report just to go over what changes we made so that the board's aware of it. We can do that pretty quick, I think. And then we'll just, I know we've approved this thing so many times, but we may approve it again just because we made so many changes, because we kept changing it, so. So I want everybody to be aware of what changes we made, so. We could, if you wanna take a look, we went, page, I'll tell you what page, page 11. Well, page 10, we added the extra, location onto the picture, well 7, we updated that. So, where they have the, that area.
Where is well 7?
Yeah, the picture itself, you see where it's a picture of the existing well. So we had proposed replacement well 7 on one side of the property, and then you see that little, on the left-hand side, we added that in there as a possible site for another site on the same piece of property near well 5.
You're talking about in the road?
Oh, here we
I'm
go.
talking about in the road, yeah,
Yeah, I see it.
yeah, okay.
Do we own that property? The road?
Yeah, that part, that is part of our property right there, so we would have to put up a fence and stuff, you know, so that we do own that property.
Oh, okay.
Is it
So,
closer
so-
to-
So
What's that?
the lines around this particular well aren't necessarily our boundary lines.
Pretty close. On figure 4, Terry?
Yeah, figure
Yeah.
4.
Yes, that's, what we see outlined there is pretty much what the well site is. And, but we own,
We own that.
But that's
piece
what I'm
of-
saying, what's outlined is not what we own. It's just what,
We own more than that.
We own more than that.
We own another pie shape that comes out like this, comes down like this. So this would be on our property. Yep. Similar to that, and then they would have their road.
cause I'm like, they're not gonna, most people down there ain't gonna want us to put something in the middle of their road.
Okay, so then, on page 11, looking at table 2, district supply sources, we changed, well 5 to 250 gallons per minute, and, well 6, we put down to 200 because that's, we figured out what the actual pumping is. And so, our total active source capacity is 450 gallons right now. So we're right where we need to be, but that's why we need to get this well going, so. So we made that change.
Wait, I thought the well 4 was not,
Well 4 can only be, it's a
It's only-
standby, so if something happened to well 6, we could run it, but we can't run it simultaneously
right, so
with
the,
well 4 and 6.
okay, so,
That's why they're only showing a 450
okay,
GPM,
Combined, yeah.
combined GPM.
okay, well 5 and 6, okay.
Right.
They're
So,
changeable.
so if you go on to page 12, we also changed in table 3. Now, table 3 is basically talking about conditions, and so this is where we also changed Monte Vista to 0. Well 3 is 0 because it's destroyed. We put it to 0 capacity. And then we changed the well 5 and 6 to 250 and 200. So, and it shows that. And on the right-hand side, it shows the condition. Monte Vista well exceeds MCL.
Good.
Okay. And then we also in the text talked about Monte Vista well also being unoperable at this time. So then
And so that doesn't meet the maximum day demand, does it?
Let's see, 450, no, it's 500, so,
So,
yeah, it's just.
yeah, so we're below the
Yeah.
that.
And the only way we're doing okay is now it's winter time. Because since the 2 wells both declined somewhat, I think we got lucky getting through the summertime.
Mhm.
I'd like to think we'd get it fixed before next summer.
So then if you go on to page 14, what we did, this is, we added in, this is the annual O&M costs for 2019. These were the actual costs. But what we had them do is we had them subtotal. You see the subtotal for annual O&M.
Mhm.
And then we moved the interest expense down with USDA principal payment reserve replacement fund.
Mhm.
And that subtotaled the debt payments. And then we transferred 425,000 in 2018-19 to the reserve fund. So that's why we put that there. That showed what our total expense for the year is. So that's just showing that actual. And then, moving on, page 17 was pretty minor.
do you have an income page?
No, this was just the actual. That was the actual for 2018, 2019. So.
Do we need an income in there, Dave?
We had it a little bit later than projected.
We have the budget later on.
Oh, okay.
So, so in the F, the only thing we did was put a semicolon and we reduced the amount of sand. We just made a minor correction there.
Where was that at?
Page 17.
Number F, the second paragraph, it said reduce the amount of sand input, and we put
Yeah.
reduced, and we changed it from a comma to a semicolon, nothing major.
Okay.
Then on to 18, now these were two alternatives, so we put on there, on the table, we said alternative, number 2A, and then on table 5 is alternative 2B, and those are two alternatives. So we made those changes. And then you go on to page 20. And page 20, we added also alternative number 3, which is the actual well replacement, and we put on there, I said well number 5 replacement project / well number 7. So that's basically just kind of labeling it, okay?
And I'm
And
gonna
this,
call it 5A or 5B.
no, because this is alternative 3.
I think you
I'm
also
saying,
added,
well, you're not gonna
I
go.
think you also added the building since the last time it was approved, didn't you? Remember? we did
Well, that was prior,
That
we had
was prior.
already talked
Oh,
to
okay.
that, about that, but yeah, the construction, all that's in there.
Cool.
And then, going on, we updated the, timeline of the project on 21. So we put December, then, and everything moved out. And so basically, it's looking like we're not gonna be complete till August, but hopefully we can do quicker. I mean, it's just really a matter of how quickly we get the loan and how quickly we can get going. But we moved that out because realistically, we were already at the end of November, so we just moved everything out.
Hope we have a wet winter.
And yes, hopefully we get a ton of snow on Wednesday. Oh, and it stays for a while.
And then I don't have to go anywhere?
Right.
Snowed in.
And on page 23, which I think, I don't know if we had talked about it, but we have in there, we added on there, you see the bond council, we have our legal, environmental, and then also we added in, down towards the bottom, because we're gonna try and get reimbursed hopefully, or be able to use it, the 97,000, the well number 5 swatch patch repairs, we added that in.
I had a
Wait,
question.
what are you talking about? Where are you?
I'm on table 8 on page 23.
Fifth
Okay.
line up,
If
well,
you-
number 5.
You look towards the bottom there, it says owner direct procurement agreements, subtotal,
Fifth line up from the bottom of the table. So well number 5.
it says well number 5 swatch patch repairs, $97,000.
And I had a question.
That's what we
Is that
did,
not
right?
accurate, Johnny?
Okay, just.
So yours
I
is
just-
wrong.
I threw that in there.
Mine's
I mean,
wrong.
it's right there ballpark, definitely.
Well, USDA will
Table
wanna
eight.
see documentation of those fees, because it'd be considered
One, two.
a contribution
Oh,
or a
right here.
reimbursement.
Yeah, I know we got
Sorry,
the, I mean,
No,
Linda
no,
can get
no
us
problem.
the
I'm
documentation
gonna look
that
at you
in
one
T.
time.
Jasper,
Where we at?
and then they also approved
And I'll say,
the
oh,
work to ensure that it's all done, so I'm
Yeah,
sure
we're
we have
on
that
page
copy.
23.
Yeah,
And the reason for including that is that it's part of the project cost.
yeah,
You get-
we had to spend it to keep functioning.
And so if you don't list it, you don't get credit for it. And so,
So that's the credit that towards what we have to put out so that we start getting the grant.
you could use it as a credit towards a reduction in the loan, or you could just say, we'll take the loan and get reimbursed for those costs, so you can reimburse your CIP, your improvement fund, for the costs that you pulled out. So that's an option you can choose from, but if you don't have it listed, you don't get to choose either, and it would hurt you. So-
Okay.
You wanna make note that Director Schoenberg showed up at 7:09?
It is now recorded. Director Schoenberg showed up at 7:09. Thank you for coming. Okay,
Okay,
so then with this, we should add the documentation?
Just have the documentation. The-
we'll have,
Available.
if-
Oh, okay.
yeah, it'll, once we start getting into the process, they might ask for that, and we'll have to compile all that. And that's something Linda can get for
The
us.
same thing with the water quality testing and stuff. We've got documentation on all of that, right?
We're not gonna get reimbursed for water quality for,
I'm just saying that all of this stuff, we have documentation that we've already sent
No,
out on.
that water the only thing that we added was the 97,000. The water quality testing is the cost that it's gonna cost us when we drill the well. In order to bring it online, we have to do water quality testing. And that's the cost that we're gonna have to expend, so that's part of the loan. But the reason why we added the 97,000, because we already spent that money. In order to get reimbursed, like he said, or to use it as credit, it has to be in this preliminary engineering report.
Okay.
And so, then, if we go on to page 24, you'll notice that we, this is basically like a budget showing everything. So this was our annual income, $1,393,000. And then when you go down, here's our O&M costs. We subtotal the annual expense was $784,098, and then we added in the loan payments for 3, 4, and 6, the principal, interest expense for the year, reserve fund, and replacement fund, and so that's a subtotal of the $183,769. Then we put in proposed loan grant. What the principal, interest, reserve, and replacement fund would be, which was a total of, that's just estimated, but that's, once, those figures is just a proposed, but it'll probably be less depending upon how much is grant and how much is loan in the end,
You're required to, on the proposed, you're required to show the
the full amount,
full loan.
yeah.
To assume it's gonna be 100% loan.
Right, so that's that 67. And then we put in there transfer funds to emergency fund, 350,000, because we need to replace, because we're gonna use some of that money from our emergency replacement fund, and so we're gonna be continuing to replace money into that fund during the year. And so that brings our total expense to $1,385,116, which basically comes to, we almost balance, on being able to still put some money away and do the loan. So that's how we showed that in there.
And they're gonna look at the numbers, and their goal is to see, are you raking in a lot of money and not putting it aside? It's good that you have details where the money goes.
Right, so that way they can see where our money goes, that we're not just, we could afford a loan when we really can't afford a loan, because we need to continue to fund our emergency funding, because our system overall is failing, and we have a lot that we have to do, so.
And we're already repaying loans, right?
Right, exactly. Now, then we go on to page 25. And then they have this just as they're just breaking this down, showing basically the same years. This is the principal payments of 3, 4, the proposed 3, 4, 6, interest payment. It just shows the same, but this is what is from July 2019. So these are the figures from July 2019. So previously, when we showed the actual, that was our actual from 2018 figures. So this is showing, because the principal payment on loan 4 went up from $15,000 to $20,000. So that's what we've put in all of the detailed amounts down here out of the chart. So it's basically just all updated, showing our payments for July 2019.
Does it? Okay.
Can I back up for a
And,
second?
okay, just a second. And then if you notice that on proposed loan grant, we changed that amount to $894,373, down towards the bottom of the page. And it has a little note. It says the proposed loan grant amount has removed the PER and design engineering costs from the project total since the costs are funded by a DWR/IRWIMP grant. So, yes, what did you
Oh, I
want?
was just wondering if you brought up on page 18 that, because Dave had given a revision that where he was saying to put the two, the swatch
Because those were all,
patching.
There are two different
they're
ones.
two different ones. They're not the same.
My bad.
They're two different alternatives. I
Oh,
talked
2A and 2B.
over
Yeah.
Got it.
with Curtis.
Okay.
That's why.
Thanks for pointing that out, Lisa, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm glad you're on top of it.
Swage.
Yeah, and the other thing we added in this chart is the interest payment,
Swage.
I was
so.
saying it wrong too.
And my understanding is they, for a reserve requirement, they want 10%.
Where is that? Yeah, I think I thought Curtis said he used 10% as his figure. Is it not 10%?
But the replacement requirement, that's for replacing the equipment.
Right,
Lisa wasn't
Okay.
here, I'll get you
That's
signed.
equipment, it's not part of the loan, it's
right.
just relative to replacement.
But it's just showing what we have to put away so that they are aware of the different, because they're gonna
They
wanna know.
require it.
They require it, so we have to show that
Oh.
we're able to put that money away.
But on the smaller loans, in the past, they required the first 10 years to only do reserve, and then after that, reserve, after that replacement. But on the second bigger loan that we got, that $2 million one, they wanted us to do reserve and replacement at the same time. So I don't know what's gonna happen on another loan, because this will be our fourth loan.
And then they'll require you to carry it all the way through to the term of the loan. So that by the time you get the last couple of years, you'll have a couple payments so they can pay off the loan earlier. That's sort of how they try to do the ration. They change it a little bit from time to time.
Okay.
Let me ask a question. If at some point in the future, if we're in a better position, is it okay to pay off a loan early and we
Oh,
would,
yeah.
and we wouldn't be penalized for the interest, correct?
Absolutely, they'd love you how you pay it off. Yeah,
Okay,
they will take your money.
okay. Not saying that will happen, but who knows in the future, you know, where we're gonna be at financially, and if we're able to do that, we would address.
Could you do like you do on a house where you could pay towards the principal? If you did have, say, an extra 50,000, can you go ahead and apply that and, to the principal and save some of the interest?
You'd have to ask.
They'd probably prefer to have it all or nothing,
You probably have to ask them that, and I'm sure that the payment would still be in place, but you'd have to pay.
It's
Yeah.
not likely we're gonna have that. kind
Yeah,
of
not
money
likely,
because we
but
need to
I
fix
just
too many
was
things.
asking a question, that's all. And that's it, so that's all.
Unless we start playing the lottery.
The only thing I don't
think
see here
Public
is,
utilities are allowed to do that.
and you could probably do it, is what the average cost per residential user is per month. And that would be a good, because on past projects, like.
I thought it doesn't have that, no, because we have our rate
You have
schedule,
your
but
rates,
not.
but it's a base rate of starting at 65 or whatever. But if you have a water use, here's the average water use, and here applied, $65 plus the average water use times whatever the charges are, the average water rate would be
Where are you suggesting that would go?
probably somewhere in,
Maybe with the rate chart?
on your current, not your future, but it's where your existing costs are right now. It would be information about the existing facilities or existing costs.
Instead of breaking it all down like that, can you just do like average water charge for active meters, 89.44? That's what our RBS billing program says the average amount is.
Dee would need to, or somebody needs to write that down so it gets put in if we wanna do that.
I mean, would that be sufficient? You could say the average base plus consumption is this number?
I think that would be,
Would you put it on page 13 where you have the rates and then you have all what our charges are? Would you-
On page 24.
or 14. 14 because it's talking what it is now.
So basically, the current, right after maybe the current capital improvement, or right before that?
Right, just so you have the current average residential water rate is this amount,
Okay,
based on what Johnny was explaining.
okay, so that's the only change we need to make.
No, they wanted, they
And all
wanted
the
to
other
have it
changes were
basically
implemented?
broken down
on
on
this
the
one?
page of
Yeah.
current,
Okay.
where it shows, basically what the base rate is, plus consumption, the average amount, so we could show that we could repay the loan.
Oh, okay.
And, so this would be the number right there.
So we would attach that as maybe.
Yeah, maybe you guys could get with
On-
Dave
on
on the format of
14,
that, but
Up
There's the copy
between
of
the list of costs and the next sentence, the next paragraph?
Yeah, but I don't think you have to put that thing in there. I think all you have to do
no, I was
is
just
put
getting
a,
in the numbers, so
Oh,
you had it. so
just
you
put a
look at it.
line in there, that says.
Average base and
that
consumption.
our average, user rate is $89 a month.
Because
Is
the
that
reference
how,
point,
is that how
they
you
could-
get, to the 1,100,018?
Huh?
Well, you got water sales, residential,
that's,
on page
Yes.
24.
that's future.
That's
That includes-
future.
That's a projected future budget with the new system.
On page 24, you're saying? Yeah, that's a proposed, that's a budget. It would be the one on 14, which is just our cost, so it doesn't show our,
It doesn't show what we make then.
well, it would be, it shows on 13 what the water consumption fee is, and what the different fees are.
And guaranteed USDA is gonna come back and they'll have questions and they'll want some more information likely changed or added to the thing.
Right. So, I make a motion that we approve the updated PER with,
That amendment?
with the amendment of the $89 user fee, consumption fee, added on page 14.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 500. Morrison carried. Yes,
Just-
Dave?
Do we have to go over the contract? Is it,
Well,
because they
I guess
kinda
that's the
looks,
question
it
for
looks
Dee,
like
because
it's
Dee has
part
a
of this
contract
now, but,
with the county of Tulare.
right.
Yeah.
Well, we're
I
gonna,
think that's the next thing up.
that's the next
I
thing.
guess
We
the question
haven't
is, does this
seen-
PER meet the contract conditions?
That's what we need to know from you.
What do you mean?
I just,
I
I have not looked at the contract conditions.
Right, but isn't that, that's separate from the PER?
No, they're paying for the PER.
Oh. Huh,
They're paying for the PER and they have a
that's
scope of
part of
work.
the
They have
Irwin.
a scope of work called for preliminary report. It seems like it's general, but it's just, it looks like it does.
I actually,
Is that the Tulare Purchasing Department?
yeah, we actually prepared that scope of work and also the budgets that you see for that.
So this engineer's report as prepared would meet those scope of work so that's you agree with Tulare County.
Yes.
Why is Tulare County?
That's Irwin.
This is the Irwin.
Or, I'm sorry.
So Dee, this is, you double check this after all our updates, right?
Yeah, we.
Because this was previous to our updates.
Yeah, we're not charging any more or any less than really
What he had agreed to with Irwin.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, it's, whatever we have to do, you know, we'll
Now-
do it, and,
Now, this, we don't have to approve this contract.
We can't, it's
So
not
it's
between us.
Tulare's already approved
And
it.
it's not between us anyway, it's between
Right, it's between you
Tulare
and.
and Jeff.
But we do need a contract between you and us, which we still don't have in order to turn the application.
I actually, I sent a draft over to Alan,
Okay.
last night, just to, you know, I wanted him to make sure that is the correct way to do it. And what it does, it's our standard, basically the standard front sheet, but it actually explains what we're doing, and all the billing and all the PER has to be approved by this board before we send a bill to the
You-
County of Tulare. And so that's what I specified on there. It's a real, just like a two-page, contract, but, I wanted Alan to look at it before, you know, the board gets it and, make sure that legally that's the
Oh,
right thing to say.
that's holding up is that gonna hold up the, application day?
Yes.
Shouldn't.
No,
It's
no,
all-
it's
The
just-
contract, I thought it has to be part of the application.
No, the Tulare one had to be done.
No, but I thought the contract between D and us has to be done as
That's a
well.
separate, I think they're talking about that USDA format contract that you talked to Robert about, at the end of Tuesday night, there's that, USDA has a standard boilerplate, like a 30-page contract for the district and the engineer. And you were wondering how to integrate the
Those
Tulare
two.
County agreement into that agreement with him. And I recall he was saying that, he said they could work it out, they just have to.
They said they could work it out, yeah. Basically, it's, one project with two funding sources. One's IRWIN and the other's USDA. And so, that has to be blended, I guess, somehow. But the first step is to have a contract with the district and have a contract with the county of Tulare. Now, we have, this has been sent back to the county of Tulare, this contract right here.
But they haven't signed it yet.
They haven't signed it, and I have, there are a couple of things that they need to correct on it. And, one is that our email address is not correct. And the other is the insurance form the insurance that they've requested is the standard non-professional insurance, requirement, which is really less than what we provide for the professional side. Normally and you have it regardless, but, I wanted them to correct that form to reflect that we have errors and omissions as well. So they've got some correction work to do on this. I sent this back, 2 days ago to Larry to have them correct it and send it back to us. So there's a little bit of a time element there too. I don't know.
I think my biggest concern is about us getting this application going, because the longer we don't get the application in, the longer it's gonna take us to get approval, and the longer it's gonna push out the well, the construction and everything that goes with the
As I
well.
understand it, the
Next winter.
application is done. From the standpoint of the application form itself, Curtis has been working on that. And I'm pretty sure that's correct, Dave. And, so, really all that needs to happen is that this element needs to be put together. The county of Tulare and the contract with the district, and then how we meld that into the USDA, I'm not quite sure. We just basically have to reflect that the amount, that project amount is reduced by $47,000, and that's what this PER reflects. But I don't know, I don't know exactly how that's gonna happen, but, that we're working on that, the application.
But who's putting the application
I
form?
wasn't aware that Curtis was doing it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that he was doing that. Maybe
Because
not.
aren't you doing it as well?
Well, we've got Oscar certified to do it,
Yeah, that's what I thought.
but I'll talk to Curtis.
Yeah, I probably ought to talk to Curtis, and then, whatever we've done, if it fits in, if it fits what
There
Oscar.
multiple people can work on it.
Yeah.
So, and in fact, they'll need to have somebody from this office be certified to do a final sign off on the application. But you guys are working towards that, getting the numbers. And I'd recommend getting this preliminary report into USDA so they can review it and comment on it. And they're gonna come back with questions.
Okay.
So and until you get all that straightened out and they like that engineering agreement,
Okay,
they're gonna want an environmental on the project that has to be done.
that's a notice of exemption,
We
correct?
did notice of exemption, but, they might want a CAD X, it just has to meet their criteria, that's all. You're drilling on the same site, replacing a well,
Right.
And, so,
So basically, this update that we just did to the preliminary engineering report, we just need you to make that one change and then send it off to USDA for them to review.
yeah.
Okay, so you will.
It'll happen tomorrow.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm just getting a little nervous. I wanna move along, so. And we've done a good job. We've got everything, I think, where we need it to be, so I just wanna make sure we don't drop the ball on it, that, between you guys, we get it going.
Yep, we're not gonna drop the ball on it.
Thank you, Dee.
That's what we wanted to hear.
Okay, so then do we need to go over the Irwin contract?
Well, I don't think we need to do anything with the Irwin contract, because basically he's already hammered that out to Larry, and they're gonna finalize it. And if you wanna look, you see the exhibit B that he's given on that contract, and it's just showing what they're paying for, what they're agreeing to pay for, which is the preliminary engineering report, which we're putting in right now, and then preparations, plan specs, which totals $31,808. So they're gonna be paying for that. So there's really nothing that we need to do with this contract, other than you getting it signed from them.
And then we have, let's see, what I'm thinking is Alan's gonna take a look at this contract between the district and DJA
Right,
in the next day or two,
right.
and then we'll get it to the district, and then does the district want to consider that at the next district board meeting?
Yes,
That will get
yes. We'll put that on for the next board meeting so we can approve it.
And I think these will probably blend together,
Right.
as far as when this thing comes back from the county to Larry,
Okay,
and then, it'll fit into the board meeting too, I think.
okay, great.
Okay.
And then the other thing is, we'll follow up, I'll check with Curtis and see what he's doing on the application date,
Sure.
and then we'll try to get that activity blended.
We're not exclusive, so. As long as it gets the thing done.
All right.
Okay. Okay, now, on to the next one, okay, we're done with well 5. Are we done with well 5?
But the USDA contract with D, you just discussed it, you're gonna get the USDA contract form and work with Robert to get it done.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, now we're moving on down the road, guys, okay? Meter replacement project now. Okay, this is a whole new load. Whole new thing, okay?
Oscar's not here tonight, and he's out in the desert. I didn't leave him there, but he went out.
You didn't leave
No,
him
he went out to our water system. Meeting. He was saying that he hasn't heard back from you folks. He's provided like they were like.
Okay, hang on, hold on. We got a sidebar going here, and I'm not following you, sorry.
He had provided the board with information of the district, like there's 4 general, there's environmental, there's technical, there's engineering or financial parts of the application for the meter. He needed comments from the board on those documents to make sure that everything was up to snuff. Once those are, and we did get the information from Dee on the updated engineer's report. I saw that this last month. So those numbers should be updated, but I understand, did you folks have any comments on those 4?
No, I don't think he was really explicit that he needed a response from them. Maybe he needs to resend it again, send it to me, with
Okay.
4 questions.
input.
And they're all filled out, it's just, you guys need to look through and make sure it's accurate from your perspective, it represents the information. I updated the board members, cause Carlos had drafted
Do
it.
you guys remember that? I think there's no.
Oh my gosh, that was a couple months ago when Oscar was here.
Benny,
no,
Oscar was here a couple months ago,
yeah,
he just started.
yeah. I think that was like his first meeting, and he was talking, and we gave him some numbers and stuff. I don't remember all of that.
I will, when he sends it to me, I'll forward it to all the board members so they can respond on what they wanna, if they want to.
Is that what's on, in number 8?
And Dee did update the cost, like 4.some odd% the budget for the.
So what,
So then-
I'm
so
kinda
then-
confused, what is it that you're asking for us to look at on the, I thought we had already gone through the preliminary engineering report for the meter replacement.
It's not the preliminary
It's not the
report,
preliminary.
it's, there's 4 application parts, and they all go from everywhere from 5 to 6 to 20 pages. And it's stuff that you fill out to answer questions about the application that's.
It's all
submitted.
filled out, we just have to review it.
Yeah, it's just,
Okay.
there's a
But
general,
I seem to remember
But
that,
we
and I
can't
remember
all
reviewing it,
answer that review, or we have a serial meeting.
but, well, my guess is gonna be there's not gonna be a lot of responses, so, you just have to make sure you answer individually if you have comments on it. Some of you may have no comments on it.
So
If
you're
you
gonna
answer
send it.
if you answer me individually, I could pass them on to Oscar and Dave.
As long as you don't reply all.
I don't, that's why I'm telling you not to do that, yeah.
Well, I'm just saying.
I have to admit, I'm the one who does that.
Okay, so,
alright,
so we'll do.
There's my other stuff I have to, and this one I don't. So I get confused.
You get a pass.
Okay. Then, so then we'll get something and figure out what that is about, right? And
Yep.
then.
So how are we getting
the
it?
project application is what we
Oscar's
gotta
gonna
do.
resend it to me and I'll forward it to all of you guys for your review.
So come next week, middle of next week, make sure you look at your email and see what's in there.
Can you text me too?
Absolutely, I'll text everybody when I send an email. That way you know to check your emails.
And don't reply to the,
Sorry, I'm
and
such a
don't
flake.
reply to the text.
Yeah,
You
I've
don't
been
reply
guilty
to
of
all.
that, but I will. Thank you for your reminder.
Okay.
I'll simplify everything. I will text and email everybody individually.
Oh.
Then you
No
can
more group chat?
then you can respond if you have something to say, and I'm the only one hearing it from all 5 of you. So
We're so transparent.
I got it.
Yes, we are.
Got it. Okay, so
Okay. Now, moving on down the road a little more.
And that was the request for technical assistance? What is that?
that's the next one.
yeah, that's number. We have to go to number 9 now.
Oh, that's on number 9?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That's what I said. Hang on. You're jumping ahead. You're jumping ahead, okay?
Y'all are confusing me.
We gotta get all on the same road
Okay.
here. Okay.
It's
If
been a
you're
long-
confused, I'm lost forever.
It's been a long day.
That's what happens when we got so many going on. Okay, now, moving on down the road, we've got number 9, which is the pipeline replacement. Okay,
We were told by the state that now's the time to start working on a grant for pipeline replacement, which we all know that we need. We need Dave's help to start the application process and to start trying to get some funding for potholing and things of that nature. So Dave sent over the TA request, which we have to fill out and submit to them so we can get approval.
And
Right?
we can help you fill it out.
That would be great.
Yeah.
I love it when you do that.
Well, I talked to, this money to do the work would come from our technical assistance funding, so we could help you with the application, but we'd also pay for someone to do the pothole, pay for a preliminary report. based on those results to come up with an estimate.
That's
And
awesome.
the person I talked with at the state said they'd be willing to approve a TA request form for that work, because until they know what the project is, you can't get a cost estimate for design. So anyways, that's what
Yeah.
they'll approve for. So they just said submit the TA request, and they'll take action on it.
So you guys need to vote on having Dave proceed with helping me do the TA request and submitting that.
I make, oh,
So-
you wanna make a motion?
It'll only be you two. We don't have to work on filling out this form.
No, you guys just tell us to proceed with the filling it out.
I make a motion that we have Johnny proceed for technical assistance to work with Dave to get the application in for technical assistance for the pipeline, for potholing.
Yeah, request for technical assistance for the pipeline application.
For the pipeline application.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 501, motion carried.
5-0, who's the one? 5-0-0, you mean?
Okay, 500. I tell you, I can't do this.
You're getting good.
Okay. Do we want to take a few minutes?
No.
Okay. I'd like to thank you guys for coming.
You don't
Because
have-
next we're going on to the new business, which is our minutes.
You can
So,
certainly
I mean,
stay if you want to.
You're welcome to stay, but we're just gonna approve minutes at 7:41.
Hey, happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yes.
You too.
You too.
How do you spell pressure?
P-R-E-S-S-U-R-D. P-R-E-S-S-U-R-D. Pressure.
Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Bye.
Pam.
Bye.
It looks weird here.
Yeah, yeah. I think actually that's right.
Thank you.
I think
Okay,
going to it. I can't.
Review and
Pretty
approve the minutes of 10:10,
Not a,
19. Jerry,
I move that we, oh, God, I gotta get my,
yeah, I know, it was like, where's that wording?
I move that we pass the minutes for Thursday, October 10th, with the with a possibility for additional amendments or typos or other errors that we may not have caught or that may need to be corrected.
Do I hear a
I
motion?
second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
500, motion carried. Okay, approve the minutes of 10:24:19. Jerry,
I move that we pass the minutes for Thursday, October 24th, with a possibility for additional amendments for typos or other errors that we may not have caught or that may need to be corrected.
Lisa? Oh, all in favor? Oh, no, I need a second.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to abstain only because I came late and I can't attest to the beginning part of the meeting, even though I'm gonna have to attest to it since you guys are agreeing with it as secretary, but I can't.
Okay.
You came late to that meeting?
Yeah, so,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, that's right.
501?
Four.
401. I can't count. Okay, any future agenda items? Other than what Tiffany's already got, anything else for next month? Nothing, good.
Do I have-
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
It's in the contract.
I will make a motion that we adjourn.
Right there.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye. 500. It is
Dave
now
just passed
Can you
these
be
out.
the third, can you be the third signature
Not
on
too
this?
awfully terrible.
Okay, gave these to you guys a couple months ago.
Dave just passed these out. It's free training.
Time frames and stuff.
If anybody's interested.
I don't know if I'm trainable.
Say what?
Free training on December
Thank
12th
you.
in Bakersfield for some board member stuff and
You have it. It's